The Chicago Girl. She didn't come from money or connections. Kim Novak was born Marilyn Pauline Novak in Chicago, the daughter of a factory worker and a former teacher. She didn't grow up dreaming of red carpets. She wanted to be an artist. But life had other plans. After high school, she landed a modeling gig with a refrigerator company. Yes, really. And that small job landed her in a promotional tour to Los Angeles. While visiting a film studio, a Columbia talent scout spotted her. He thought she had the look. The studio brought her in for a screen test. She barely had acting experience, but the camera loved her. Columbia Pictures was hunting for their answer to Marilyn Monroe, and Novak with her cool stare and curvy figure fit the bill. But first, she had to be remade. Studio boss Harry Cohn renamed her Kim, dyed her hair platinum, and tried to mold her into his ideal star. Novak didn't love it. She fought to keep her natural eyebrows, refused plastic surgery, and kept a quiet, guarded persona off camera. That quietness only made her more mysterious and more marketable. Her early roles were small but memorable. In Pushover and Fuffed, she showed something that other young actresses didn't: restraint. She didn't oversell. She didn't try to outshine. And because of that, audiences leaned in closer. Then came Picnic in 1955. This was the big one. Novak played a small-town girl with big dreams, and she nailed it. The dance scene by the river with William Holden made her a household name overnight. She wasn't loud or flashy, but she held the screen. By the end of the decade, Kim Novak wasn't just Columbia's top star. She was one of the highest-paid women in Hollywood. She hadn't followed the rules. She'd written her own. Not bad for a girl who used to pose next to kitchen appliances. The makeover that sparked controversy. Hollywood didn't just cast Kim Novak, they tried to sculpt her. The minute she signed with Columbia, the transformation began. Harry Cohn, the studio chief, had one mission: turn Novak into Columbia's answer to Marilyn Monroe. He ordered her hair bleached platinum, gave her speech training to erase her Chicago accent, changed her name from Marilyn to Kim to avoid comparisons with Monroe. But Cohn didn't stop there. He wanted her to get a nose job. Novak flat out refused. She said no to lip enhancements, no to altering her eyebrows. Even as a newcomer, she pushed back, hard. That didn't sit well with Cohn, who was known for controlling his stars. But Novak didn't care. She said, "They wanted me to be sexy. I wanted to be real." She wasn't interested in being someone's fantasy, and yet Columbia packaged her like one. They dressed her in tight sweaters and fitted dresses. Photo shoots focused on her curves. Film roles leaned into seduction. But Novak's body language told a different story. More guarded, more thoughtful. That tension made her stand out. Unlike Monroe, who played into her sex appeal with a wink, Novak didn't flirt with the camera. She challenged it. Her screen presence was cool, detached, even a little sad, and people couldn't get enough of it. The public bought the fantasy. Critics were split. Some called her wooden. Others said she was hypnotic. Either way, she kept landing leading roles. Behind the scenes, she hated the Hollywood machine. She said she felt like a puppet at times, but acting paid the bills and gave her power she didn't grow up with. Her defiance wasn't loud. It was quiet, steady, and visible in every performance. And it made her dangerous to a studio system built on obedience. Kim Novak didn't just survive the makeover, she flipped it on its head. Heat behind the camera in Picnic. By 1955, Kim Novak was still new, still unproven, but Columbia rolled the dice and cast her as Madge Owens in Picnic. It was a bold move. The role was emotional, romantic, and carried a quiet tension that could easily fall flat in the wrong hands. Novak made it unforgettable. On set, things were intense. Her co-star, William Holden, was a seasoned actor and a heavy drinker. Their chemistry was real, but complicated. Holden reportedly didn't want to do the now iconic dance scene by the river. He thought it was embarrassing. Novak disagreed. She knew that scene would define the movie. It did. Shot in slow, sultry motion with the song Moonglow playing, that scene showed a kind of physical intimacy that was rare in films at the time. No kissing, no dialogue, just energy. It said everything without saying a word. Off-screen, Holden and Novak had tension too. She was shy, guarded, he was flirty, older, and married. They didn't date, but rumors followed them for years. The press called it simmering. Columbia called it magic. When the film was released, audiences were hooked. Picnic earned 6 Oscar nominations and cemented Novak as a true leading lady. She didn't play Madge like a sex symbol. She played her like a girl stuck between what she wanted and what she was told to want. Critics called her performance restrained, but powerful. That restraint would become her trademark. Back at the studio, Harry Cohn realized he had something rare, a star who didn't act like one. Novak didn't go to parties. She didn't do interviews unless forced. But the more she hid, the more fans wanted to know her. Picnic wasn't just her breakout, it was her declaration. She wasn't just a pretty face. She could carry a film, and she didn't need to raise her voice to be heard. Forbidden romance. What happened next didn't just raise eyebrows, it set Hollywood on fire. In the late 1950s, Kim Novak quietly began dating singer and entertainer Sammy Davis Jr. It was a dangerous move. She was a major movie star under contract. He was black, Jewish, and one of the most famous performers in the country. Interracial relationships were taboo, especially in the public eye. But Novak didn't care. She saw Davis as talented, magnetic, and kind. They were spotted at private parties and small clubs around Los Angeles. Studio executives found out fast. Harry Cohn went ballistic. He didn't just threaten her career, he reportedly called in people with mob ties to make it stop. According to accounts from people close to Davis, he was given a terrifying choice: end the relationship or risk physical harm. The pressure worked. Davis backed off, heartbroken. Novak was devastated but stayed silent. She couldn't fight the system, not yet. The relationship was never officially confirmed by Novak at the time. But years later, she admitted it happened. She said the way it ended left a mark on her, one she never fully got over. Why was it such a big deal? Because Kim Novak was at the height of her fame, and Columbia saw her as an asset they could sell to mainstream white audiences. They didn't want scandal. They wanted control. Davis, for his part, kept his head down but never forgot. Friends said he spoke of her with warmth and pain. This was more than a Hollywood affair. It exposed the raw racism, control, and hypocrisy behind the scenes. Novak had money and fame, but not freedom. The performance Hitchcock hated to love. Alfred Hitchcock didn't want Kim Novak for Vertigo. He had another actress in mind, Vera Miles, but she dropped out. Columbia loaned Novak to Universal for the role of Madeline, and Hitchcock wasn't thrilled. He thought she lacked polish. She thought he was cold and controlling. It wasn't a friendly set. Still, Novak showed up ready. She asked questions, pushed back on choices. She hated the gray suit Hitchcock insisted she wear, said it washed her out. He told her it wasn't about her preferences, it was about his vision. The result? One of the most haunting dual performances in film history. Novak played Madeline and Judy, two women wrapped in mystery and longing. And she did it with minimal dialogue, barely raising her voice. Her sadness wasn't loud, it lingered in her eyes, in the pauses between her words. Critics at the time didn't know what to make of it. Some called her flat, others said she couldn't act, but audiences were drawn in. And years later, the same critics who dismissed her started calling Vertigo a masterpiece. Hitchcock never praised her publicly, but behind the scenes he admitted she surprised him. She had an instinct he didn't expect, something he couldn't control. The studio didn't love the box office numbers. Vertigo wasn't a hit when it premiered. It was too strange, too slow, too psychological. But over time it became Hitchcock's most analyzed film and Novak's most iconic role. She didn't smile much in the movie. She didn't flirt. She just was wounded, mysterious, unforgettable. And when film historians started ranking the greatest performances in cinema history, Novak's name kept showing up. Not because she played the Hollywood game, but because she quietly destroyed expectations. Hitchcock may have hated that she didn't follow his rules, but the audience, they couldn't look away. Glamour and guts at Cannes. The Cannes Film Festival was where stars went to shine, but when Kim Novak showed up in the early 60s, she didn't just sparkle, she detonated. She walked the red carpet in a sheer, body-hugging gown that left very little to the imagination. The neckline plunged. The fabric clung. Photographers went wild. Flashbulbs didn't stop for 10 solid minutes. It wasn't a wardrobe malfunction. It was intentional. Novak knew what she was doing. This was her message to Hollywood. You don't own me. The studio begged her not to wear it. They wanted modest. She wanted headlines, and she got them. The French press called her La déesse glacée, the ice goddess. American outlets were more dramatic. One headline read, Kim Novak's dress causes an international incident. The Vatican reportedly criticized the look. Some critics claimed she was degrading herself. Fans said otherwise. They saw power, not desperation. Novak never apologized. When asked about it later, she said, I wore it because I liked how I felt in it, that's it. What most people didn't know? She was battling anxiety behind the scenes. She felt pressure from every angle, studios, fans, men in power. But she put on the dress anyway. That moment became one of the most talked about red carpet appearances of the decade. It was also a turning point. Novak was done being Columbia's obedient poster girl. She began picking roles for herself, or turning them down altogether. The Cannes appearance wasn't just a fashion moment. It was her rebellion. It showed that even in an industry built to control women, Kim Novak could still call the shots, at least for one unforgettable night. She didn't smile for the cameras. She didn't wave like the others. She just stood there, completely still, while the world gasped, and she never looked back. Hollywood's most expensive mistake. After Vertigo, studios thought pairing Kim Novak and Jimmy Stewart again was a guaranteed hit. So, in 1958, they cast them as lovers in Bell, Book and Candle, a romantic comedy with Novak playing a sultry witch who falls for a mortal man. On paper, it had everything. 2 box office stars, a quirky premise, and eye-popping technicolor. Off-screen, it was anything but magical. The film was rushed into production to ride the buzz from Vertigo, but the tone was uneven. Part comedy, part fantasy, part moody romance. Novak looked stunning in every scene, dressed in sleek black gowns and dramatic lighting. But the script didn't give her much to work with. Critics were polite but unimpressed. Some liked the style. Others said Novak seemed stiff and disconnected. The truth? She was exhausted. Studio pressure was mounting. She had barely wrapped Vertigo when filming started, and she had no say in the project. Even Jimmy Stewart later admitted he felt too old for the role. He was 25 years older than Novak and called it a stretch. Audiences noticed. The biggest problem? Bell, Book and Candle was supposed to rebrand Novak as more than a dramatic actress. It didn't. Instead, it trapped her in the same roles, icy blondes with mystery and no agency. Despite the studio's efforts to push the film, it underperformed at the box office. Not a flop, but not the hit they banked on. Behind the scenes, Novak grew increasingly frustrated. She said later that she felt like a prop in some of her movies, and Bell, Book and Candle was one of them. It was a wake-up call, not just for Novak, but for Hollywood. She wasn't a plug-and-play sex symbol. She needed depth, complexity, and room to breathe. The studio didn't get the message. But Kim did. The Playboy cover. In the early 60s, a rumor started swirling. Playboy reportedly held unpublished private photos of Kim Novak, though they were never released to the public. The photos weren't taken during her acting career. They were from her early modeling days, long before she became a household name. Back then, she posed under a different name for small-time photographers. Nothing explicit, but racy enough that they'd cause a scandal if published. Hugh Hefner allegedly wanted them. Badly. He knew Novak had a mysterious, untouchable image. Releasing those photos could sell 1 million issues. But there was a problem. Novak's Columbia contract included strict moral clauses. If the photos went public, it could wreck her career, or trigger a lawsuit. When Novak found out, she was livid. Her lawyers stepped in immediately. Threats of legal action followed. Hefner backed off, publicly. Still, whispers didn't stop. For years, fans speculated whether the photos existed at all. Playboy insiders later confirmed they did, but they never saw the light of day. What made the situation worse was how Novak was treated. Male stars had flings, scandals, even arrest records, and their careers bounced back. For Novak, one photo could mean disaster. She never posed for revealing photos during her Hollywood career, never needed to, but that didn't stop the media from trying to undress her in print. Tabloids ran leaked images of her in bathing suits, trying to pass them off as something more. Novak stayed silent for years, but later in life, she admitted that the Playboy situation shook her, not because she was ashamed, but because she hated the double standard. The incident didn't destroy her career, but it added one more reason she began pulling back from Hollywood. She didn't want to be a product. She didn't want her body to be debated in courtrooms or magazine offices. Kim Novak wasn't just fighting for privacy, she was fighting for control in a town that never handed it out freely. And for once, she won. The retreat and the rumors. By the early 1970s, Kim Novak had enough. She was tired of the scripts, the headlines, and the pressure to stay young, glamorous, and silent. So she walked away. No big farewell, no magazine spreads, no dramatic exit. She just left. First, she moved to Big Sur, then later to rural Oregon with her husband, equine veterinarian Robert Malloy. Novak wanted out of the spotlight, and more than that, she wanted a normal life. Hollywood didn't know what to make of her retreat. The tabloids, desperate for a story, filled in the blanks with wild speculation. Rumors flew. She'd had a breakdown, vanished for surgery, entered secret rehab, or worse. Some said she'd ruined her face. Others claimed she was blacklisted. But Novak wasn't hiding. She was healing. For the first time since her teens, she could breathe. She painted, rode horses, spent time on her own land, away from flashing cameras. Fame had always felt suffocating, and now she was finally free of it. Still, the press wouldn't let go. Anytime she stepped back into public view, even for a charity event or quiet interview, the headlines zeroed in on her appearance. Not her talent, not her legacy, her face, her age. She once said, "They always wanted the image. I wanted to be a person." And that's what she chose, peace over applause. Unlike most stars of her era, Novak didn't stage a comeback. She wasn't interested in proving anything. She took occasional roles on her terms, like a 1991 TV movie with Ben Kingsley. But the Hollywood machine? She'd left it behind. Her withdrawal wasn't a collapse. It was control. She took back her narrative in the quietest, most powerful way possible, by walking away and never needing to return. And in doing so, she forced people to confront a hard truth. Sometimes, the most radical thing a woman in Hollywood can do is disappear on purpose. The Oscars return. In 2014, Kim Novak walked back into the lion's den. She hadn't appeared on a major Hollywood stage in years, so when she stepped out at the Academy Awards to present an animation award alongside Matthew McConaughey, the crowd was surprised and then stunned. Novak was 81st elegant in a soft, peach-colored gown. Her voice was gentle, her movements graceful, but that wasn't what trended. Within minutes, social media erupted with commentary. Not about her films, or the fact that one of Hitchcock's most iconic leading women was on stage again, but about her face. Plastic surgery rumors exploded. Some viewers mocked her speech while others criticized her appearance in cruel public tweets. But Novak didn't flinch. She delivered her lines and exited with poise. What the public didn't know was that Novak had battled cancer years earlier. She'd had treatments that affected her appearance, including facial nerve damage. Like many aging women in the public eye, she'd also experimented with cosmetic procedures, something she later admitted with regret. Days after the Oscars, she posted a personal note on Facebook. "I wanted to look nice for the Oscars. I wasn't prepared for the cruelty." She didn't deny using fillers. She didn't play victim. She spoke honestly. about fear, vulnerability, and the brutal expectations placed on women, especially aging women in Hollywood. And something shifted. The mockery turned into a conversation. Celebrities like Rose McGowan and fans around the world came to her defense. People began questioning why women over 60 are treated like punchlines for simply existing. Novak never asked for sympathy, but by showing up, flawed, older, real, she started something bigger. The girl who once refused to change her nose, who walked away from stardom on her own terms, returned for one moment and faced an industry that still hadn't changed. But this time, she didn't need the spotlight. She was the spotlight. And for once, the room finally understood what it meant when Kim Novak didn't blink. The world watched her become a household name as the lovable, wholesome Mae Clarke on the Beverly Hillbillies. But there was so much more to Donna than the iconic character she portrayed. Men adored her not just for her beauty or her on-screen charm, but for qualities that went beyond the surface. From her entrepreneurial ventures to her natural charm, Donna Douglas left a lasting impression on everyone she met. So, why did men, along with countless women, fall in love with her? Let's take a deeper look at the traits that made Donna Douglas not just a star, but an unforgettable icon. She was the girl next door. Donna Douglas had that vibe you just couldn't resist, the kind of charm that made her feel like the girl next door. And by that, I mean she wasn't trying to be anything she wasn't. She was just real. And that made her so easy to like. No fake airs, no pretenses, just pure, genuine goodness. Take her role as Mae Clarke in The Beverly Hillbillies. Mae was the embodiment of that down-to-earth charm. She wasn't trying to be fancy or glamorous. She was a fun, sweet character who was always herself. Whether she was chasing after animals or trying to help her family figure out how to deal with their new rich life, Mae was just there, doing her thing, and it was that natural warmth that made people love her. You didn't need to be someone super fancy to win hearts. Donna showed you could just be yourself and still be adored. What's cool about Donna's charm is that it wasn't forced. It didn't feel like she was putting on a show. Mae was someone who you could imagine hanging out with, someone you'd want to be friends with, you know? There was this authenticity about Donna that made her so approachable. You didn't have to try to impress people to be loved. Just being kind, genuine, and real was enough. It's the type of charm that's so easy to connect with, especially in a world where so many Hollywood stars were all about that perfect, polished image. Donna wasn't trying to be perfect. She just was who she was, and that was so refreshing. She made you feel like you could be her friend without all the glam and glitter. She didn't need to be someone you couldn't relate to. She was just herself, and that's what made her so special. She had this way of making you feel like you belonged, like she was the kind of person you could sit down with and have a genuine conversation. And let's be real, who doesn't want that in a friend or a star? Donna had this natural ability to make people feel at ease, like she was one of us. She wasn't trying to be a bigger-than-life star. She just let her true, kind nature shine through. And honestly, that's a pretty rare thing in Hollywood. It's the kind of charm that makes you admire someone, not because they're perfect, but because they're so refreshingly real. Her girl-next-door vibe wasn't just a character trait, it was her. That realness made her stand out in a time when a lot of stars were caught up in the whole untouchable vibe. Donna was someone who didn't need to be larger than life to be adored. She showed us that being kind, relatable, and just yourself could make you unforgettable. That's why men and women alike couldn't help but love her. She didn't try too hard, she just let her true self shine. And in a world full of glitz and glam, Donna Douglas was a breath of fresh air. Her contagious energy. Donna Douglas had this energy about her that was just contagious. You know the kind of person who walks into a room and immediately lifts the mood? That was her, even when playing Mae on the Beverly Hillbillies. She didn't just play the part, she became it. Her character was full of life, always bringing a burst of joy and excitement. And honestly, you couldn't help but feel the same way when you saw her on screen. Her energy wasn't just about being loud or over the top, though. It was this warm, natural enthusiasm that made you smile every time she showed up. It was the kind of vibe that made her character so lovable and approachable. Ellie Mae wasn't just the cute, sweet country girl, she was the embodiment of fun, always enthusiastic and ready for whatever came her way. That positive attitude was impossible not to get swept up in. And it wasn't just Ellie Mae where Donna's energy came through. In real life, she was known for being bubbly and full of life. She was the kind of person who made everything seem a little brighter just by being there. Whether it was chatting with fans, showing up to events, or just being around her co-stars, you could feel that buzz of energy around her. It was effortless, too, not something she had to force. She just had that natural ability to make people feel good. Men and women loved that about her. Who wouldn't want to be around someone who could make any situation feel fun and exciting? Donna's energy wasn't about being the loudest or the most dramatic. It was the kind of vibe that made people feel happy just being near her. It's that kind of positivity and enthusiasm that makes people memorable, and Donna Douglas definitely left an impression with hers. Her infectious energy also gave her an edge. Even when she wasn't the lead in a scene, she had this way of bringing everything to life. Her enthusiasm could light up even the most mundane moments, making her presence impossible to ignore. You were always drawn to her, even if she was just there to support the main action. That ability to stand out in any setting, it's something people admired and loved about her. In a world where it's easy to feel weighed down by the daily grind, Donna's energy was a refreshing reminder that life can be full of joy, excitement, and fun. She made you want to keep up with her and maybe for a moment forget about your own stresses. And that's one of the reasons people just couldn't get enough of her, because her energy was the kind that left you feeling lighter and happier every time she graced the screen. Her elegance was timeless. Donna Douglas had this effortless elegance that made her stand out from the crowd. She wasn't flashy or trying to be over the top. It was a quiet, refined kind of grace that made her unforgettable. Whether she was on or off screen, she had a way of carrying herself that made you think, wow, she's classy. Take her role as Ellie Mae in the Beverly Hillbillies. Even though Ellie was the fun country girl next door, there was still an undeniable elegance in how Donna played her. Whether she was dressed in simple country clothes or playing the role of the naive but adorable hillbilly, there was a certain poise about her that made every moment feel special. She made modest clothing look chic, and her natural beauty shone through without any of the need for heavy makeup or flashy outfits. It was all in the way she carried herself. There was a quiet sophistication about her that felt timeless. In real life, this elegance wasn't something she had to work at. Donna wasn't someone who followed trends or tried to keep up with the latest fads. Instead, she had a classic sense of style that always seemed to fit her perfectly. Whether she was attending an event or just going about her day, her fashion choices were always chic without being overdone. It was this timeless elegance that made her not only beautiful but also incredibly graceful even in her more casual moments. Men loved that about her. There was something deeply attractive about a woman who didn't need to shout for attention. Donna's elegance came from within. It was in her posture, the way she spoke, the way she interacted with others. She didn't need a lot of fanfare to be noticed. She simply exuded grace, and it drew people in. What made Donna's elegance stand out even more was the fact that it wasn't about perfection. She wasn't trying to be some unattainable ideal. Instead, she was comfortable in her own skin. It was this authenticity paired with her graceful nature that gave her a rare kind of beauty, one that didn't fade with time. In a world where trends and looks change so quickly, Donna's elegance was something that never went out of style. It was a trait that made her beloved by both men and women alike, and one that made her shine in every role she took on. She was genuinely kind. Donna Douglas was the kind of person who made you feel special without even trying. She wasn't just an actress, she was genuinely kind, warm, and down-to-earth. Fans and co-stars alike always spoke about her sweetness and how approachable she was. There was nothing put on about her kindness. It wasn't a part of her image or a calculated move to gain favor. She simply had a good heart, and it came through in everything she did. But this goodness wasn't just something Donna played on screen. It reflected her real personality. She was known for being generous with her time, always taking the time to chat with fans and make them feel seen. It was clear that her kindness wasn't for show, it was just who she was. Her genuine warmth and caring nature extended beyond the set and into her everyday life. Donna was someone who looked out for people, and that was true in her interactions with both her colleagues and the public. She didn't need to be the center of attention. She was content just making those around her feel happy and valued. Whether she was helping a co-star, chatting with a fan, or simply being a kind person in a world that often seemed to reward the opposite, Donna's heart was always in the right place. That kind of kindness is magnetic. It's one of those qualities that makes people want to be around you. And men? They love a woman who is genuinely caring and compassionate. There's something incredibly attractive about someone who makes others feel good about themselves. Donna's genuine kindness wasn't just limited to the people she knew personally. It was something that radiated to everyone she met, and it's one of the reasons she was so adored by so many. Her kindness wasn't just something she showed in small gestures either. She cared about causes and people who needed help, always willing to lend a hand. It's rare to see someone who genuinely gives their time and energy to others without expecting anything in return. That's what made Donna Douglas not only beloved by those who knew her, but respected by all who came across her path. She didn't need to be a diva to be adored. Her kindness did all the work for her. And that, my friends, is a trait that never goes out of style. She was independent. Donna Douglas wasn't just a pretty face or a sweet personality. She was a woman with an unwavering sense of independence. In a time when many actresses were expected to fit a certain mold, she carved her own path. She wasn't afraid to stand up for herself or make her own decisions, and that made her all the more attractive to both men and women alike. Take her decision to pursue a career in acting. At the time, it wasn't the easiest road for a woman to follow, especially for someone like Donna, who came from a small town and didn't have the usual connections that many in Hollywood did. But she was determined. She didn't just wait for an opportunity to come to her, she went after it. And that tenacity eventually led her to the role of Ellie Mae in The Beverly Hillbillies, which became a defining moment in her career. What made Donna's independence even more admirable was the way she stayed true to herself throughout her career. In an industry that often pressured women to conform to certain standards, Donna didn't try to be something she wasn't. She didn't follow trends, and she didn't let anyone tell her who she should be. She was perfectly content with carving out her own niche and doing things on her own terms. That confidence in her own identity was magnetic. It showed that she didn't need validation from anyone else to feel worthy, and her independence didn't stop at her career. Donna wasn't afraid to make bold choices in her personal life, too. She took the time to travel, to explore new interests, and to live her life the way she saw fit. She was never the type to be overly reliant on others or to let circumstances dictate her happiness. Instead, she worked hard to shape her own destiny, which only made her more inspiring. Men and women respect a woman who knows what she wants and doesn't shy away from going after it. Donna's ability to balance her career, personal life, and passions all while remaining true to herself was an admirable quality. It's that fierce independence that set her apart and made her even more intriguing to those who looked up to her. The fact that she didn't let anything or anyone stand in her way was one of the many things that made her so captivating. Her natural beauty. When you think of Donna Douglas, it's impossible not to think of her radiant beauty. But what made Donna stand out wasn't just her classic good looks, it was how effortless and natural she was. She wasn't the typical Hollywood glamour queen, and that was part of her charm. There was something about her beauty that felt real, down to earth, and approachable. She didn't have to put on a show to look beautiful. It was just who she was. Her beauty was part of the character's simplicity and innocence. With her bright smile, flowing blonde hair, and sparkling eyes, Donna embodied the girl-next-door image, but with a touch of elegance. Her natural beauty made her stand out among the Hollywood starlets who often leaned on heavy makeup and glamorized looks. Donna didn't need all of that to shine. She was radiant without all the frills, and it's one of the reasons why she captured so many hearts. But her beauty wasn't just about her looks. It was also about how she carried herself. She had a confidence in her own skin that made her even more stunning. You could tell she was comfortable in who she was, and that kind of self-assurance is magnetic. Whether she was on screen or off, her grace and poise added to her beauty, making her presence unforgettable. In a world where people are constantly trying to fit into unrealistic standards of beauty, Donna's natural approach was refreshing. She didn't rely on heavy makeup or dramatic hairstyles to get attention. Instead, she let her authenticity shine through, and that made her even more beautiful in the eyes of those around her. Men were drawn to her because her beauty wasn't forced. It was effortless, unpretentious, and most of all, real. Her beauty, combined with her easygoing charm, made her someone you could imagine wanting to spend time with, not just because of how she looked, but because of how she made you feel. She made beauty seem like something attainable and relatable, and that's why so many admired her. There was nothing artificial about Donna Douglas. She was as beautiful on the inside as she was on the outside, and that's a rarity in the world of show business. She had strong work ethic. She was also one of the hardest working women in Hollywood. She didn't just show up for work. She gave it her all, every single time. This strong work ethic was evident in everything she did, both on and off screen, and it made her stand out even more in an industry full of stars. In all the roles she played, it wasn't just about looking cute and playing a fun, lovable character. Donna worked tirelessly to make Ellie Mae, for instance, memorable. She dedicated herself to making sure the character felt authentic, bringing warmth, humor, and real emotion to a role that could have easily been played as one-dimensional. And it wasn't just her acting skills that shone through. Donna also learned how to do many of the stunts and physical work her character required, including horseback riding and animal handling. This wasn't just about acting for her. It was about giving the audience the best version of the character she possibly could. But her hard work didn't end when the cameras stopped rolling. Donna was incredibly dedicated to her career, always seeking out new opportunities to challenge herself and grow. She didn't just stick with TV, she also appeared in movies and even had a successful career in music, releasing a couple of country albums. It was her versatility and willingness to work hard that allowed her to continue expanding her career throughout the years. And she wasn't just a workhorse in show business. Donna took that same dedication into her personal life. She worked hard to maintain a balance between her career and family life, making sure to stay grounded even as her fame grew. She understood the importance of family and was committed to her personal values, which made her even more relatable to her fans. Men admired Donna for this kind of commitment and drive. She was someone who didn't just sit back and expect success to come to her. She went out and earned it. And she didn't do it for the fame or the recognition. She did it because she truly cared about her craft and wanted to be the best at it. That level of dedication is something people can't help but respect and admire. She was down to earth. Donna Douglas had an infectious, down-to-earth vibe that made everyone feel like they were in the presence of a real, relatable person. She wasn't interested in playing the Hollywood diva or surrounding herself with a fake lifestyle. She was approachable, warm, and completely unpretentious, and that's what made her so lovable. She embodied this grounded, relatable charm. While some of her characters might have lived in a mansion in Beverly Hills, in real life, she was far from a typical spoiled, pampered rich girl. She was sweet, fun-loving, and utterly genuine. And Donna's portrayal of her was the same. She didn't put on airs, she was just Donna, the girl next door who happened to be living out a unique story on TV. Off camera, Donna was known for being just as approachable. Despite the fame that came with the Beverly Hillbillies, she never let it go to her head. She took the time to connect with her fans and had a way of making everyone she met feel important. Her sincerity and lack of ego were refreshing in an industry where fame often comes with a sense of entitlement. Donna never acted like she was above anyone. She simply treated people with kindness and respect. Her down-to-earth nature was also evident in how she lived her life. She had a no-nonsense attitude, and while she enjoyed the perks of fame, she never seemed to get caught up in the chaos that often surrounds it. She knew how to keep things real and maintained a strong sense of who she was, even as her popularity grew. It's easy to admire someone who can remain grounded when everything around them is constantly changing. For men, her humble and genuine personality was incredibly attractive. There was nothing intimidating or distant about Donna. She was the kind of woman you could imagine sitting down with, having a real conversation, and just enjoying life without any pretense. And for women? They admired her for the same reason. Donna was a role model for being true to yourself, no matter what the world throws at you. She didn't need to be anything other than herself to be adored, and that's a rare quality in Hollywood, where so many people are putting on a show. A serial entrepreneur. While many TV stars from her era let their fame define them, Donna wasn't content to rest on her laurels. She understood the power of building something lasting beyond the spotlight, and she made sure to carve out a life that reflected her independence and business acumen. After her iconic role as Ellie Mae Clampett on the Beverly Hillbillies, Donna didn't simply fade into the background. Instead, she turned her focus to other ventures, proving that she could thrive in multiple arenas. She wasn't just a former TV star, she was a woman who could get things done. For instance, Donna turned to writing, publishing books like Miss Donna's Cookbook and Donna Douglas, the Girl Who Had Everything. She didn't just write about food or Hollywood. Her books reflected her passion for sharing knowledge and connecting with people. It was clear that Donna had a creative side that extended far beyond acting. But she didn't stop there. Donna also ventured into real estate, proving she wasn't afraid to take on new challenges. In a field that required business savvy and a keen understanding of markets, Donna showed she could navigate the complexities of a competitive industry and still maintain her elegance and charm. Perhaps one of her most surprising yet impressive moves was becoming a financial advisor. In an era where many stars were at the mercy of managers and agents, Donna took control of her financial future, learning the ropes of wealth management and helping others make sound financial decisions. This wasn't just a side hustle for her, it was a full-fledged career, demonstrating her resourcefulness and her commitment to empowering herself and others. Behind the glamour of old Hollywood was a hotbed of scandal. Think love triangles, blackmail, and rumors so wild they'd make Twitter explode today. The Clarke Gable and Loretta Young love child scandal. One of the most whispered about was the rumor that Clarke Gable fathered a secret child with Loretta Young. The year was 1935, and the two were co-stars in The Call of the Wild. Off-camera, it was said sparks flew. Gable, married to socialite Rhea Langham, had a reputation for on-set flings. Loretta Young, on the other hand, was known for her strict Catholic faith and carefully curated image of innocence. After filming Wrapped, Young disappeared from the spotlight. Months later, she returned, announcing she had adopted a baby girl named Judy. Her story was that Judy was an orphan who needed a home, but Judy's striking resemblance to Gable, right down to his distinctive ears, made the cover story hard to believe. Whispers of an affair and a secret pregnancy circulated immediately. Both stars stayed quiet. Gable, often referred to as the King of Hollywood, never publicly addressed the rumors. Young stuck to her adoption claim, protecting her career and reputation. Insiders, however, hinted that Gable made secret visits to Judy, further fueling the speculation. MGM reportedly stepped in to bury the story, fearful of how it might damage its stars. For nearly 6 decades, the truth remained hidden. It wasn't until 1994 that Young, in a rare interview, confirmed what many had long suspected. Judy was her biological daughter, the result of what she described as a non-consensual encounter with Gable during the filming of The Call of the Wild. This shocking revelation cast the scandal in a far darker light, reframing what had been romanticized as an affair into a story of exploitation. The confession added complexity to both Gable and Young's public personas. For Judy, it ended a lifetime of rumors, but also exposed the darker side of old Hollywood. Joan Crawford's alleged blue movies. Her career was the definition of Hollywood success, but behind her polished image, whispers of a scandal threatened to tarnish her legacy. By the 1930s, Crawford was one of MGM's brightest stars. However, rumors suggested her rise to fame had a darker backstory. The claims that before her Hollywood breakthrough, she'd appeared in adult films to make ends meet. These films, often called stag films, were part of an underground scene in the 1920s. Crawford, known then as Lucille Lesueur, was said to have participated in these productions during her early days as a struggling dancer. Fans found her swift transformation into a Hollywood star suspicious, speculating that someone powerful had helped her bury her past. Eddie Mannix, MGM's infamous fixer, was often linked to these rumors. Mannix was the studio's go-to guy for cleaning up messes and protecting its stars. Allegedly, he stepped in to handle the Crawford situation, tracking down and destroying any negatives of the supposed films. MGM was known for its obsession with controlling the public image of its stars, so the idea isn't far-fetched. Still, no concrete proof of Mannix's involvement, or the films themselves, has ever surfaced. Crawford, for her part, denied the allegations her entire life. She called the rumors malicious lies meant to drag her down. Decades later, her adopted daughter Christina reignited public interest in Crawford's private life with her controversial book Mommy Dearest. While the memoir didn't address the adult film rumors directly, its shocking portrayal of Crawford added fuel to the fire about her hidden past. Despite the intrigue, no evidence has ever confirmed the existence of these alleged films. Were they a smear tactic against a powerful woman in Hollywood, or was there some truth to the whispers? We may never know, but the rumors have ensured that Crawford's name remains as infamous as it is iconic, proving that Hollywood's obsession with scandal knows no bounds. Errol Flynn's espionage allegations. He was the ultimate Hollywood swashbuckler, famous for his charisma and swordplay. But during World War II, a darker story started to circulate. Flynn, the man behind Robin Hood's smile, was rumored to be a Nazi spy. As wild as it sounded, the FBI took these whispers seriously and kept an active file on him. The allegations weren't baseless. Flynn had a close friendship with Hermann Urban, an Austrian doctor with confirmed Nazi ties. The two shared a love of travel, but Urban's documented connections to German intelligence raised alarms. Flynn's frequent trips to Europe during the war didn't help his case. Add to that his Austrian roots and his perceived indifference to the Allied cause, and the rumors began to stick. The conspiracy gained momentum in 1980, thanks to Charles Hyam's book Errol Flynn, The Untold Story. Hyam painted Flynn as a double agent, claiming the actor passed information to the Nazis while maintaining his Hollywood image. The book alleged Flynn's charm and international lifestyle made him the perfect spy. It also accused Flynn of using his Hollywood clout to help Urban and other Nazi sympathizers. But Hyam's claims were heavily criticized. Historians and Flynn supporters argued the evidence was flimsy and speculative. The FBI's files, while extensive, lacked any smoking gun. Flynn's defenders labeled Hyam's book a hit piece, accusing the author of exaggerating for shock value. Many believe the rumors were fueled by Flynn's reckless lifestyle rather than actual treachery. Despite the pushback, the damage was done. The mere suggestion of espionage left a stain on Flynn's legacy. Even today, the idea of Hollywood's most dashing hero harboring Nazi sympathies remains a tantalizing what if. So what's the truth? Was Flynn just an adventure junkie with bad judgment in friends, or did his charm mask something far more sinister? The lack of definitive evidence keeps the mystery alive, leaving fans and critics to debate whether Flynn's greatest act was on-screen or off. Marilyn Monroe's mysterious diaries. Her death in 1962 left behind more questions than answers. One of the most persistent rumors revolves around her alleged secret diaries. These journals supposedly contained shocking details about her relationships with John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert. For decades, these rumored diaries have fueled conspiracy theories and added to the intrigue surrounding Monroe's life and death. Monroe was known for keeping journals. She used them to write poetry, reflect on her life, and document personal experiences. Biographer Anthony Summers, in his book Goddess: The Secret Lives of Marilyn Monroe, suggested she recorded sensitive details from conversations with the Kennedys. Allegedly, some entries included political secrets and information that could have made her a liability. The circumstances of Monroe's death have only added to the speculation. Found lifeless in her Brentwood home, she was officially ruled a victim of a barbiturate overdose. However, the involvement of the FBI and LAPD in the investigation raised eyebrows. Rumors claim Monroe's house was searched extensively, and anything incriminating, like the alleged diaries, was quietly removed. Some close to Monroe, including her friends, insisted they had seen her write about her encounters with powerful men, adding fuel to the fire. Despite decades of speculation, no one has ever found these diaries. Some believe they were destroyed to protect the reputations of high-profile figures. Others argue the diaries never existed, suggesting they were invented by the media to sensationalize her tragic story. The lack of evidence hasn't stopped books, documentaries, and theorists from speculating about what they might have contained. Charles Chaplin's paternity battle. Charles Chaplin may have revolutionized film, but his personal life was often front-page news. By the 1940s, Chaplin was already a magnet for controversy, and the 1943 paternity suit filed by Joan Barry added fuel to the fire. Barry, a 22-year-old aspiring actress, claimed Chaplin was the father of her daughter, Carol Ann. The case quickly became a media frenzy, overshadowing Chaplin's cinematic brilliance. Barry's relationship with Chaplin had ended before her pregnancy, and he firmly denied fathering her child. He pointed to Barry's erratic behavior, stalking him, breaking into his home, as evidence of her instability. Still, her claims gained momentum, and the case went to court. In a bid to prove his innocence, Chaplin agreed to a blood test. At the time, this was cutting-edge science. The results were clear. Chaplin was not the biological father, but there was a catch. Under California law, blood tests were inadmissible in paternity cases. The jury ruled against Chaplin, ordering him to pay child support. The verdict caused public outrage, with many questioning the fairness of the decision. The scandal didn't stop in the courtroom. It gave Chaplin's enemies, including FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, exactly what they needed to intensify their attacks. Hoover, who was already suspicious of Chaplin's political leanings, used the trial to paint him as both immoral and un-American. The FBI's campaign against Chaplin wasn't subtle. It added pressure to an already tense situation, leading to his forced departure from the U.S. in 1952. He relocated to Switzerland, where he spent the rest of his life. Despite the controversy, Chaplin continued making groundbreaking films, though the paternity case cast a long shadow over his later years. Judy Garland's alleged drug coercion. Judy's talent lit up the screen, but her life behind the scenes told a darker story. Her career, especially during her teenage years, has been heavily scrutinized for the alleged exploitation she endured under MGM's iron grip. Many believe the studio orchestrated her dependency on drugs to keep her working at an unrelenting pace. Garland was just 13 when she signed with MGM. While her voice was unmatched, executives cruelly criticized her appearance, labeling her the Little Hunchback. To fit Hollywood's rigid standards, she was subjected to harsh dietary controls. Reports suggest her meals consisted of black coffee, chicken soup, and diet pills, all closely monitored by studio staff. The most shocking claims involve amphetamines, pep pills, allegedly given to Garland to keep her energized for marathon filming schedules. During The Wizard of Oz, she was said to work up to 18-hour days, running on little more than these stimulants. To help her sleep, barbiturates were reportedly prescribed, creating a dangerous cycle of dependency. By adulthood, Garland's struggles with addiction were undeniable. Her personal life and career began to show the strain. She often spoke candidly about her experience with the studio system, saying, "They had us working days and nights on end. They'd give us pills to keep us on our feet long after we were exhausted, then knock us out with sleeping pills when the work was done." Her battles didn't stop there. She faced public breakdowns, hospitalizations, and strained relationships. Despite these challenges, her raw talent and resilience kept her fighting for her place in Hollywood. Garland's tragic death in 1969, at just 47 years old, was attributed to an overdose. It was a heartbreaking end for a star who had given so much to the industry but received so little care in return. Her story remains a grim reminder of how old Hollywood often treated its stars as commodities rather than people, prioritizing profit over well-being. Judy Garland will always be remembered for her brilliance, but her struggles highlight the darker side of fame in the industry's golden era. The murder mystery of Thelma Todd. Her death in December 1935 stunned Hollywood. Known as the Ice Cream Blonde, she was beloved for her comedic timing and glamorous looks. At 29, Todd was a star on the rise, transitioning from silent films to talkies with ease. She also ran Thelma Todd's Sidewalk Cafe, a hotspot for celebrities along the Pacific Coast Highway. But her success was overshadowed by her mysterious death, which has remained unsolved. Todd's body was found slumped in her car inside the garage of her lover and business partner, Roland West. The garage, located above her cafe, became the center of intense speculation. The coroner ruled her death accidental, caused by carbon monoxide poisoning from her car's running engine. Still, the details surrounding her death didn't add up, sparking rumors that refused to die. Weeks before her death, Todd allegedly received threats from mobsters demanding money from her cafe. Organized crime figures saw her business as prime real estate for their operations. Her refusal to comply may have put her in danger. Adding fuel to the fire, Todd was seen arguing at a party the night before with her ex-husband, Pat DeSico, who had known mob connections. Then there was Roland West. West's controlling behavior and rocky relationship with Todd made him another prime suspect in the public's eyes. Some believed West locked her in the garage after an argument, not realizing the car was still running. West's shifting accounts of that night only deepened the suspicion. The coroner's report didn't help matters. It mentioned minor bruises on Todd's face and body, leading to speculation about a possible struggle. Yet there were no clear signs of foul play, leaving investigators without solid evidence. Despite the public outcry, the case was closed as an accidental death. Thelma Todd's story is still a favorite among true crime buffs. Was it a tragic accident? A mob hit? A lover's quarrel gone horribly wrong? The truth remains elusive, ensuring her death remains one of Hollywood's most talked-about mysteries. Rock Hudson's hidden truth. He had it all: looks, charm, and a career most actors could only dream of. He became Hollywood's go-to leading man in the 1950s, starring in romantic hits that solidified his image as the ultimate symbol of masculinity. Fans loved him, studios relied on him, and his name alone could sell out theaters. But behind the perfectly polished exterior was a secret that Hollywood worked overtime to keep hidden. Rumors about Hudson's sexuality began circulating early in his career. Back then, even a hint of being gay could end a star's career. Hudson's agent, Henry Wilson, was infamous for covering up scandals and managing his clients' images with ruthless efficiency. When whispers about Hudson started growing louder, Wilson orchestrated a hasty solution: a marriage. In 1955, Hudson married Phyllis Gates, Wilson's secretary. The timing wasn't subtle. It came right after a tabloid threatened to publish a story about Hudson's personal life. Gates later claimed she didn't know Hudson was gay when they married, but skeptics have doubted her version of events. The marriage lasted 3 years, but by then it had served its purpose: silencing the rumors. Behind closed doors, Hudson lived a carefully compartmentalized life. Close friends and co-stars knew the truth, but loyalty and fear of the industry's backlash kept them quiet. Studio executives wielded immense power and had no problem squashing tabloid stories that could tarnish their golden boy. Everything changed in 1985 when Hudson announced he had immune deficiency syndrome. He was the first major celebrity to publicly disclose the diagnosis, a move that shocked fans and confirmed the rumors. The revelation came at a time when advanced HIV disease was deeply stigmatized, and Hudson's bravery helped bring global attention to the crisis. His death later that year was mourned worldwide and exposed the hypocrisy of an industry that demanded perfection at any cost. Lana Turner and the Johnny Stompanato murder. Lana Turner's relationship with Johnny Stompanato had everything tabloids could dream of: a Hollywood icon, a mobster boyfriend, and an explosive ending. Stompanato, a known associate of crime boss Mickey Cohen, wasn't just bad news. He was dangerous. Despite his charm, his violent streak quickly turned their romance into a toxic mess of arguments and reconciliations. By 1958, the relationship had reached its breaking point. On April 4th, an argument in Turner's Beverly Hills home escalated to violence. Turner later testified that Stompanato threatened her, causing her 14-year-old daughter, Cheryl Crane, to step in. Grabbing a kitchen knife, Cheryl stabbed him in the abdomen. He died almost instantly. The fallout was chaotic. The media swarmed Turner's home, turning the incident into a nationwide scandal. Headlines screamed speculation about what really happened that night. At the coroner's inquest, Cheryl claimed she acted in self-defense to protect her mother. Turner backed her up, tearfully recounting the abuse she'd endured. The jury ruled it justifiable homicide, but whispers of a different story refused to die. Some questioned whether Cheryl, a teenager with no history of violence, could deliver such a precise fatal wound. Others believed Turner herself had wielded the knife and that Cheryl took the blame to save her mother's career. Stompanato's mob connections added another layer of intrigue. There were rumors that his death wasn't an accident at all. Some suggested Mickey Cohen had orchestrated the killing either to eliminate liability or settle a personal grudge. Cohen, of course, denied any involvement. Despite the jury's decision, the scandal haunted Turner. While she continued acting, her glamorous image was forever tied to the tragedy. Cheryl, too, struggled with the weight of public scrutiny. The case remains one of old Hollywood's most infamous stories, blending celebrity drama with true crime. Whether it was a desperate act of protection or a cover-up, the Stompanato murder still fuels endless speculation. Decades later, it's clear this was no ordinary Hollywood breakup. It was a headline-grabbing scandal that left scars on everyone involved. The Black Dahlia and Hollywood. The murder of Elizabeth Short, better known as the Black Dahlia, remains one of Hollywood's darkest mysteries. In January 1947, her mutilated body was found in a vacant Los Angeles lot. The crime was horrifying and left posed in a gruesome manner. The case immediately grabbed headlines, with every sordid detail plastered across newspapers. Short, just 22 years old, had come to LA chasing dreams of becoming an actress. Like many others, she struggled to find work, often relying on friends or admirers for support. When her murder hit the news, her personal life became fodder for speculation. Reporters and the public alike were eager to link her to Hollywood's elite. Rumors swirled that she had attended exclusive parties thrown by powerful industry figures. Some even suggested she had rejected the wrong man's advances, which led to her untimely death. One theory that refuses to die is the involvement of Dr. George Hodel, a prominent and wealthy physician. Hodel was known for hosting extravagant gatherings attended by artists, intellectuals, and Hollywood insiders. Decades later, his own son, Steve Hodel, a former LAPD detective, accused him of being the killer. Steve presented evidence, including old photos of a woman resembling Short and his father's medical expertise, which matched the surgical precision of the crime. The accusations against George Hodel didn't come out of nowhere. During the 1940s, he was investigated for other crimes, including the suspicious death of his secretary. Although Hodel was never charged in the Black Dahlia case, his connection to it has fueled endless speculation. Elizabeth Short's murder remains unsolved, but her name is forever tied to the shadowy side of Hollywood. Whether she was targeted for her ambitions, a chance encounter, or something more sinister, the crime highlighted the dangers lurking in the industry.
In the golden age of Hollywood, where glamour ruled and movie stars shined brightly on the silver screen, there existed a darker underbelly of ruthless ambition, bitter rivalries, and fiery tempers. Behind the dazzling smiles and polished exteriors, some of Hollywood's biggest names made enemies left and right, whether with co-stars, directors, or even their own families. In this video, we'll unravel the stories of the most hated women in old Hollywood, from the ruthless Joan Fontaine to the ambitious Anne Baxter and the scandalous Zsa Zsa Gabor. We'll delve into their notorious feuds, power struggles, and the controversies that left them despised both on and off set. How did Joan Fontaine's lifelong rivalry with Olivia de Havilland spill onto the screen? What sparked the enmity between Anne Baxter and Bette Davis during All About Eve? And why was Zsa Zsa Gabor's name synonymous with scandal? Joan Fontaine. Fontaine's most infamous rivalry was with her sister, Olivia de Havilland. Their feud was legendary, stretching back to childhood and intensifying when both pursued careers in Hollywood. It became an open secret that the two sisters despised each other, and their contentious relationship often played out in public. In 1942, the tension came to a head at the Academy Awards. Fontaine and de Havilland were both nominated for Best Actress, Fontaine for Suspicion, and de Havilland for Hold Back the Dawn. When Fontaine was announced as the winner, she brushed off de Havilland's attempt to congratulate her, leaving her sister humiliated and fuming. De Havilland never forgave Fontaine for this slight, and the sisters barely spoke for decades afterward. The rivalry was so intense that even Joan's autobiography was titled No Bed of Roses, in which she criticized de Havilland for trying to steal her roles and their mother's affection. Fontaine's feud with de Havilland wasn't the only relationship she struggled with. While working on Rebecca, Fontaine found herself at odds with her co-star, Laurence Olivier. Olivier had wanted his then-wife, Vivien Leigh, to be cast in the lead role, but Hitchcock chose Fontaine instead. As a result, Olivier was openly hostile toward Fontaine, frequently belittling her performance and criticizing her acting skills. Fontaine later recalled that Olivier was relentlessly cruel to her throughout the production. Her relationship with Hitchcock was similarly strained. Hitchcock's unconventional method of drawing out her insecurities to heighten her vulnerability on screen left Fontaine feeling manipulated and insecure. She described Hitchcock as ruthless and believed he took pleasure in keeping her on edge during filming. Despite these tensions, Fontaine's performances in Hitchcock's films earned her critical acclaim, firmly establishing her as a leading lady in Hollywood. Fontaine's reputation for being difficult extended to other co-stars as well. On the set of Jane Eyre, she clashed with Orson Welles, whom she described as pompous and intolerable. Her strained relationships with other leading ladies like Vivien Leigh and Ginger Rogers further cemented her image as a prim princess unwilling to share the limelight. Olivia de Havilland. While Joan Fontaine may have been despised by her sister, Olivia de Havilland didn't earn any love from Joan either. Born just 15 months apart, Olivia de Havilland and Joan Fontaine's rivalry permeated Hollywood for nearly a century. In fact, de Havilland once quipped, "Our feud isn't a feud, it's a brawl," setting the tone for her turbulent relationship with her sister. De Havilland is best known for her roles in classics like Gone with the Wind, 1939, where she played the gentle Melanie Hamilton Wilkes, and her double Oscar-winning performances in To Each His Own, 1946, and The Heiress, 1949. Despite her public image as a gracious and composed star, de Havilland was known to be fiercely competitive. Her rivalry with Fontaine reached a boiling point in 1941 when she lost the Best Actress Oscar to her sister. De Havilland was visibly upset when Fontaine won for Suspicion, 1941. 2 years later, she got her revenge by taking home her first Oscar for To Each His Own, 1946. De Havilland further cemented her dominance by winning a second Oscar for The Heiress, 1949. According to biographer Charles Hyam, de Havilland once remarked, "Joan is very bright and sharp and quick-witted, but she's also very self-centered." De Havilland's combative nature wasn't limited to her sister. She famously feuded with Errol Flynn, her co-star in 8 swashbuckling adventures, including The Adventures of Robin Hood, 1938, and Captain Blood, 1935. Flynn reportedly made unwanted advances towards de Havilland, calling her a cold fish for rejecting him. He later wrote in his autobiography, My Wicked, Wicked Ways, "Livy and I were like the sea and the shore, drifting slowly apart." Her battles weren't only with actors, but also with directors. She often clashed with Michael Curtiz, who directed her in The Adventures of Robin Hood and Dodge City, 1939. Curtiz was notorious for his harsh treatment of actors, and de Havilland was no exception. she once walked off the set in protest of Curtis's behavior, refusing to return until the studio intervened. One of de Havilland's most significant battles, however, was with Warner Brothers. In 1943, she filed a lawsuit against the studio, challenging the legality of their practice of extending actors' contracts for time spent on suspension. Known as the de Havilland Law, her victory not only won her freedom from her restrictive contract, but also revolutionized the Hollywood studio system, granting actors greater creative control. Gloria Grahame. With her trademark sultry voice and alluring smile, Gloria captivated audiences as the femme fatale in films like The Big Heat, 1953, and In a Lonely Place, 1950. But behind the smoldering allure was a troubled actress whose life was riddled with scandals, making her one of old Hollywood's most controversial figures. Graham's off-screen life was often more dramatic than her roles. During the production of In a Lonely Place, her erratic behavior and disdain for her co-star Humphrey Bogart became the talk of the town. Director Nicholas Ray, who was also Graham's husband at the time, caught her in bed with his 13-year-old son, Anthony. The scandal led to their divorce in 1952, and Grahame married Anthony Ray 10 years later. This notorious relationship alienated many of Graham's colleagues, including her former husband and director Nicholas Ray. Despite the turmoil, Grahame continued to land prominent roles throughout the 1950s. Her performance in The Bad and the Beautiful, 1952, earned her an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, though her win was overshadowed by rumors of her behavior on set. Co-star Lana Turner reportedly refused to work with Grahame again, describing her as unprofessional and a manipulative diva. Graham's relationship with directors was just as volatile. On The Big Heat, she clashed with Fritz Lang, who described her as impossible to direct due to her constant demands for script changes. Her behavior became so intolerable that Lang allegedly considered replacing her, but producer Robert Arthur insisted she stay. Despite the tension, Grahame delivered one of her most iconic performances as the doomed Moll, Debbie Marsh. Further controversy erupted during the production of Oklahoma, 1955, where Grahame played Ado Annie. Co-star Eddie Albert claimed that she was a nightmare to work with, frequently arriving late and demanding special treatment. Her performance was widely criticized, with New York Times critic Bosley Crowther calling her miscast and unconvincing. Miriam Hopkins. She was one of the most successful actresses of the pre-Code era. Miriam Hopkins, known for her roles in films like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, 1931, Designed for Living, 1933, and The Story of Temple Drake, 1933. Her beauty and talent made her a sought-after leading lady, but her temperamental nature and fierce competitiveness made her difficult to work with. Hopkins had a notorious reputation for being arrogant and demanding, often clashing with directors and co-stars alike. One of her earliest disputes was with director Ruben Mamoulian on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Mamoulian recalled that Hopkins was volatile and challenging, requiring constant reassurance about her performance. Despite their strained relationship, Hopkins delivered a remarkable performance that solidified her status as a rising star. Her rivalry with Bette Davis remains one of Hollywood's most infamous feuds. It began in 1939 when both actresses were cast in The Old Maid, an adaptation of Edith Wharton's novella. Hopkins was known for her theatrical style, while Davis brought a more naturalistic approach. Their contrasting acting methods led to intense on-set friction, with each actress trying to outdo the other. Davis later admitted to deliberately overacting in scenes with Hopkins to steal the spotlight. The feud escalated in 1943 when they were cast together again in Old Acquaintance. Hopkins insisted on redoing scenes multiple times, much to the frustration of director Vincent Sherman. In one memorable instance, Davis couldn't contain her rage and shook Hopkins violently during a scene, nearly injuring her. Sherman noted, "They hated each other with a vengeance." Hopkins' arrogance also put her at odds with leading men like Frederick March and Herbert Marshall. On Designed for Living, directed by Ernst Lubitsch, Hopkins constantly vied for attention with March and co-star Gary Cooper. Lubitsch found her behavior exasperating, describing her as the most difficult actress he had ever worked with. Hopkins's insecurities often led her to demand script changes and more screen time, much to the dismay of her co-stars. In The Story of Temple Drake, Hopkins played a scandalous role that brought her both acclaim and controversy. Her portrayal of the sexually assaulted Temple was considered too explicit, and the film was banned in several states. Hopkins thrived on the attention, but her risque performance also earned her the ire of conservative critics and audiences. Mae Clarke. Clarke's career was marked by both triumph and turmoil. Best known for her roles in The Public Enemy, 1931, and Frankenstein, 1931, Clarke's rise to stardom was marred by conflicts with co-stars and directors that earned her a reputation as one of Hollywood's most challenging actresses. Her most iconic moment came in The Public Enemy, where James Cagney famously smashed a grapefruit into her face. The scene catapulted Clarke to fame, but behind the scenes, her relationship with Cagney was far from amicable. Cagney later recalled that Clarke was difficult to work with due to her temper and demands for special treatment. Despite this, they went on to star together in another film, Lady Killer, 1933, where tensions again flared. Clarke's fiery personality wasn't limited to Cagney. During the production of Frankenstein, she clashed with director James Whale, refusing to film certain scenes unless changes were made to the script. Boris Karloff, who played the monster, described Clarke as headstrong and stubborn, often disrupting the shooting schedule with her demands. However, her performance as Elizabeth Lavenza was well received, and Frankenstein became one of the most influential horror films of all time. Off-screen, Clarke's relationships with other actresses were equally strained. She reportedly had a contentious rivalry with Anne Dvorak, her co-star in Three Wise Girls, 1932, over billing and screen time. Dvorak once quipped, "Mae was always ready for a fight, even when no one was interested." Their rivalry was exacerbated when Clarke accused Dvorak of trying to steal her role in the Penguin Pool murder, 1932. Despite her early success, Clarke's career began to decline in the mid-1930s. Her uncooperative behavior and penchant for conflict made her unpopular among studio executives. In one notable instance, she clashed with director George Stevens on the set of The Housekeeper's Daughter, 1939, walking off the set after an argument over her lines. Stevens eventually convinced her to return, but the incident solidified her reputation as unreliable. Clarke's turbulent personal life also contributed to her fall from grace. Her first marriage to F. Scott Ames ended in divorce after just 2 years, and her second marriage to Stevens Bancroft lasted even less. By the early 1940s, Clarke's star had dimmed significantly, and she was relegated to supporting roles and bit parts. Anne Baxter. Anne's portrayal of the ambitious Eve Harrington in All About Eve, 1950, remains one of cinema's most iconic performances. But Baxter's role as the conniving understudy wasn't far removed from her real-life persona, as she garnered a reputation for ambition and manipulation both on and off the screen. Baxter's rise to fame was swift. By 23, she had already won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for her role in The Razor's Edge, 1946. But it was her role in All About Eve that solidified her as a star. Her on-screen rivalry with Bette Davis mirrored their off-screen tension. Davis, who played the aging actress Margot Channing, found Baxter's performance to be too over the top and accused her of trying to upstage her. Davis once quipped, "She should have been called Anne Backstabber instead of Baxter." The tension between the two led to a bitter feud throughout the production. Baxter demanded equal billing with Davis, a move that infuriated Davis and further strained their relationship. Director Joseph L. Mankiewicz had to intervene repeatedly to keep the peace, describing their interactions as volatile and charged with animosity. Baxter's ambition wasn't limited to her rivalry with Davis. She frequently clashed with directors and co-stars. On the set of The Ten Commandments, 1956, she had a tumultuous relationship with director Cecil B. DeMille. Baxter, who played Nefertiti, reportedly demanded numerous script changes to give her character more screen time. DeMille found her demands exasperating, but ultimately acquiesced to some of her requests, believing her presence would enhance the film's commercial appeal. Her co-star Charlton Heston, who played Moses, found her behavior unpredictable and temperamental. Heston noted in his autobiography that Baxter was often difficult to work with and prone to mood swings, which disrupted the production. Baxter's reputation for being manipulative also extended to her personal life. Her marriage to actor John Hodiak ended in divorce in 1953, with Hodiak citing her controlling nature as a primary reason. Her second marriage to Randolph Galt was similarly troubled, with Galt describing Baxter as impossible to live with due to her constant demands and erratic behavior. Gene Tierney. Tierney's troubles began early in her career. Despite her undeniable talent and beauty, she quickly developed a reputation for being challenging to work with. During the production of Laura, director Otto Preminger found her demanding and overly concerned with her appearance. He insisted on multiple takes to achieve the right look, which frustrated Tierney. Despite their clashes, Tierney delivered one of her most iconic performances, solidifying her status as a leading lady. Her relationship with Preminger soured further during the making of Whirlpool, 1949, where Tierney portrayed a kleptomaniac undergoing hypnosis. Preminger described Tierney as difficult and unpredictable, noting that her struggles with depression often affected her performance. Nonetheless, Tierney's nuanced portrayal received critical acclaim, though the tension between her and Preminger ensured they never worked together again. Tierney's behavior also strained her relationships with co-stars. On the set of Leave Her to Heaven, she clashed with Cornel Wilde, whom she reportedly found unprofessional and arrogant. Wilde later described Tierney as moody and distant, often refusing to speak to him between scenes. Despite the tension, Leave Her to Heaven became a major success, earning Tierney an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress. Another co-star who felt Tierney's wrath was Dana Andrews, with whom she shared the screen in Laura and the Iron Curtain, 1948. Andrews claimed that Tierney's perfectionism often led to heated arguments on set, describing her as a perfectionist to the point of exhaustion. He later admitted that her mental health struggles may have contributed to her erratic behavior. Tierney's insecurities about her appearance also made her demanding with makeup artists and costume designers. Edith Head, the legendary costume designer, noted that Tierney was obsessed with every little detail of her wardrobe, often demanding last-minute changes. Makeup artist Ben Nye recalled that Tierney would frequently refuse to leave her dressing room until every eyelash was perfectly placed. Tierney's personal life was equally tumultuous. Her first marriage to Oleg Cassini was marked by infidelity and financial woes, ultimately ending in divorce in 1952. Her subsequent relationship with Prince Ali Khan, the ex-husband of Rita Hayworth, was also rocky, with the prince's family reportedly disapproving of Tierney. Paulette Goddard. Goddard's rise to stardom began with her marriage to Charlie Chaplin in the early 1930s. While Chaplin's influence helped launch her career, her talent soon shined through in roles like the Gammon in Modern Times and Hannah in The Great Dictator. However, her marriage to Chaplin was rocky, marked by infidelities and professional rivalries. The two divorced in 1942, and Chaplin later remarked that Goddard was ambitious to a fault. Her role in So Proudly We Hail brought her acclaim, but also conflict. Goddard allegedly sabotaged her co-star Veronica Lake's performance, insisting on script changes that would favor her character. Lake later accused Goddard of conniving to steal scenes and using her charm to manipulate directors. Despite the tension, Goddard received an Academy Award nomination for her performance. Goddard's ambitious nature often put her at odds with her co-stars and directors. On the set of Unconquered, 1947, she clashed with director Cecil B. DeMille over creative control. DeMille wanted her character to appear more vulnerable, while Goddard insisted on portraying a stronger woman. Their arguments became so heated that DeMille reportedly threatened to replace her. Her relationship with co-star Fred MacMurray in Standing Room Only, 1944, was also strained. MacMurray found Goddard controlling and dismissive, claiming she often undermined his suggestions for their scenes. However, Goddard brushed off his criticism, stating, "In this business, you've got to look out for yourself." Susan Hayward. Hayward's early career was marked by determination. Born Editha Mariner, she came to Hollywood from Brooklyn in 1937, vying for the role of Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. Although she didn't get the part, she secured a contract with Warner Brothers, eventually moving to Paramount, where she starred in Bo Gesta, 1939, and Reap the Wild Wind, 1942. However, her uncompromising attitude often put her at odds with directors and co-stars. One of her most notorious feuds was with Bette Davis during the production of Where Love Has Gone, 1964. Hayward and Davis clashed over creative control, with each actress demanding top billing and rewrites to enhance their roles. Their rivalry became so intense that director Edward Dmytryk had to shoot their scenes separately to avoid confrontations on set. Davis reportedly called Hayward a pushy, demanding redhead, while Hayward found Davis pretentious and insufferable. Hayward's conflicts weren't limited to Davis. On The Lusty Men, 1952, she had a tumultuous relationship with director Nicholas Ray. Ray described her as uncontrollable and moody, often refusing to take direction and insisting on rewriting her lines. Co-star Robert Mitchum also found her difficult, calling her a temperamental spitfire. Her abrasive personality also surfaced on the set of The Conqueror, 1956, where she starred alongside John Wayne. Wayne and Hayward were both known for their strong personalities, leading to frequent arguments about their scenes. Wayne later remarked that Hayward was like handling dynamite, volatile and unpredictable. Zsa Zsa Gabor. The Hungarian-born socialite and actress, Zsa Zsa was known as much for her lavish lifestyle and glamorous image as for her acting career. While she appeared in films like Moulin Rouge, 1952, and Lily, 1953, her flamboyant personality and penchant for controversy overshadowed her roles, earning her a reputation as one of Hollywood's most notorious divas. In 1989, Gabor was arrested for slapping Beverly Hills police officer Paul Kramer after he pulled her over for a traffic violation. The highly publicized trial ended with Gabor serving 3 days in jail and paying fines and compensation. The incident solidified her image as a temperamental diva, and she made the most of the publicity, quipping, "He deserved it." Gabor's diva behavior extended to her co-stars and directors as well. On the set of Queen of Outer Space, 1958, she clashed with director Edward Burns over her character's costumes, insisting on wearing more glamorous outfits than the role required. Burns later remarked, "Zsa Zsa was always demanding special treatment and refusing to listen to direction." Her feuds weren't limited to directors. Gabor often found herself at odds with fellow actresses, particularly Shelley Winters and Eva Gabor, her own sister. Winters described Gabor as outrageous and selfish, claiming that she would throw tantrums just to get attention. Meanwhile, Zsa Zsa's relationship with Eva was strained by jealousy and competition, leading to frequent arguments both on and off set. In her later years, Gabor became known for her eccentric public appearances and notorious legal battles. She married her ninth husband, Frederick Prince von Anhalt, in 1986, and the two remained together until her death. Their relationship was marked by scandal, with von Anhalt often making outlandish claims about his heritage and adopting adult men to carry on his royal lineage.
What do a telegram divorce, a sabotage sisterhood, and a banned stage script have in common? Joan Fontaine. And this isn't the version Hollywood ever wanted you to hear. The girl who changed her name. She wasn't born a star. She wasn't even born Joan. In 1917, in Tokyo, Japan, she entered the world as Joan de Beauvoir de Havilland. Her British parents were upper class and proper, but Joan didn't exactly grow up in comfort. Chronic illnesses like anemia and measles made her childhood rough. Her mother moved Joan and her sister Olivia to California when the marriage fell apart. That's when the rivalry quietly began. Both sisters were drawn to acting. Olivia de Havilland jumped in first and grabbed Hollywood's attention early. Joan, still in her teens, followed close behind. But right away, she was warned. Two de Havillands wouldn't work in the same industry. So she grabbed a phone directory, scrolled through names, and picked Fontaine, after her stepfather. Just like that, Joan de Havilland vanished, and Joan Fontaine was born. Her early years in Hollywood were no fairy tale. She started with tiny roles, maids, secretaries, girls who barely got screen time. She failed so many screen tests, she once said she thought the camera didn't like her face. Studio heads weren't impressed. They called her too quiet, too soft, and not sexy enough for stardom. But Joan wasn't trying to play Hollywood's game. In interviews, she mocked the phoniness of it all. She refused to flirt her way into roles which didn't win her many friends. Then came Rebecca. Alfred Hitchcock cast her in the lead after several others backed out. Joan brought something new, nervous energy, real vulnerability, and restraint. The part turned her into an overnight sensation. Critics loved her, but she still got snubbed at the Oscars. It didn't matter. She was finally seen, and not as Olivia's sister. By the time Suspicion came around, she wasn't just another face in a supporting cast. She was the star. And when that Oscar win came in 1942, Joan didn't hold back. Her acceptance was poised, but when Olivia reached out to congratulate her, Joan brushed right past. The rivalry was real. The name change, just the beginning. Sibling rivalry goes nuclear. Hollywood has had its share of sibling drama, but none quite like Joan Fontaine and Olivia de Havilland. At first, people didn't even realize they were sisters. Different last names helped with that, but behind the scenes, the tension was always simmering, and eventually, it exploded. Their rivalry wasn't about clothes or boys, it was about fame, pure and simple. Both were talented, ambitious, and determined to win. Early on, they even auditioned for the same roles. Joan wanted Gone with the Wind, just like Olivia. She didn't get it, Olivia did. That one stung. But Joan didn't say much. Not then. Things really hit a boiling point in 1941. Joan landed the lead in Hitchcock's Suspicion. Olivia was working on Hold Back the Dawn. Both were nominated for Best Actress at the Oscars. Joan won. And when Olivia tried to congratulate her with a handshake, Joan turned and walked off stage. Some say it was nerves, others call it a straight-up snub. Joan never really explained it. Olivia never forgot it. Over the years, the Cold War between them kept growing. They stopped attending the same events. At one press function, Joan reportedly told photographers, "I don't have a sister." That line made headlines and cracked the relationship for good. At another event, they sat at opposite ends of the table and didn't say a single word. Joan's memoir, No Bed of Roses, made things worse. In it, she accused Olivia of being jealous, cruel, and controlling. Olivia fired back in interviews, calling Joan a dragon lady and a liar. They didn't even speak when their mother passed away. Joan claimed Olivia didn't tell her about the funeral. Olivia denied it. Even in their later years, when both lived into their 90s, they stayed apart. No reunion, no forgiveness, just silence. What started as a quiet competition turned into one of the ugliest feuds in Hollywood history. And the strange part? It wasn't played for the cameras. It was real, sharp, personal, and lasting until the very end. Playing the good girl with a bite. She made her name playing shy, delicate women, soft-spoken types who looked like they might cry if you raised your voice. Her characters in Rebecca and Suspicion fit that mold perfectly. But off-screen, Joan wasn't that girl. Behind the scenes, she was sharp, stubborn, and surprisingly blunt. Crew members often said she was more sarcastic than sweet. While directors expected her to stay quiet and compliant, Joan asked hard questions. She didn't flirt to get ahead and didn't care who liked her. When one producer suggested she smile more, she replied, "Why? Does it help you act better?" She smoked constantly and gambled for fun. At Hollywood parties, she told dirty jokes and made fun of studio bosses to their faces. More than once, she was asked to tone it down, especially in interviews. Her reply? "I'll speak how I speak. Don't ask if you don't want the answer." Even other actors were caught off guard. Cary Grant, who starred with her in Suspicion, once said she had a quiet steel behind her eyes. On set, she pushed back on scripts that felt lazy or roles that made her feel like wallpaper. Directors learned fast. You couldn't just place her in the background and expect her to play nice. This contrast between her screen image and real personality baffled some fans. They expected her to be soft and fragile. Instead, she came off cool and calculating. In one interview, she admitted she hated the word nice because it usually means you're forgettable. That attitude came with a price. She didn't get the same cushy roles as her peers, but Joan didn't care. "I'm not here to be liked," she once said. "I'm here to be remembered." And she was, just not for the reasons Hollywood had planned. Feuding with Hitchcock. She owed a lot to Alfred Hitchcock. Rebecca made her a star. Suspicion won her an Oscar. But don't be fooled. She didn't exactly enjoy working with him, and she definitely wasn't afraid to say so. Their relationship started off well. Hitchcock liked actresses he could shape. Joan was new, quiet, and eager for good roles. But once filming started, things shifted. Hitchcock's directing style was cold and precise. He demanded obedience. Joan didn't always give it. During Suspicion, she fought him on how her character should be played. He wanted her passive, confused, almost childlike. Joan thought the role deserved more edge. She questioned blocking. refused to cry on cue, and didn't like being handled like a puppet, as she put it. They butted heads often. Hitchcock reportedly told producers he'd never work with her again. Joan didn't care. She told friends that Hitchcock had a woman problem. He liked his actresses blonde, blank, and obedient. "I was blonde," she said, "but I wasn't going to be blank." Things came to a breaking point after Suspicion wrapped. The studio re-edited the film so that Cary Grant's character came off less threatening, and Joan's character seemed more naive. Hitchcock hated the change, but Joan refused to reshoot scenes unless her contract was renegotiated. She knew her worth, and she wasn't going to be pushed around. After that, Hitchcock moved on to other blondes. He worked with Ingrid Bergman, Grace Kelly, and Tippi Hedren. Joan was never on his call sheet again. Years later, when asked if she'd ever work with him again, Joan smirked and said, "Only if I directed." Hollywood marriages, Fontaine style. She didn't do quiet romances or picture-perfect marriages. She had 4 husbands and left each one with her signature flair. From the start, she made it clear. She wasn't looking for someone to complete her. She wanted someone who wouldn't get in her way. Her first marriage was to actor Brian Aherne in 1939. On paper, they looked perfect. In reality, Joan found him dull. She said he treated her like a chatty little girl. After 4 years, she was done. She filed for divorce, citing mental cruelty. Translation: she was bored. Next came William Dozier, a producer. They married in 1946 and had a daughter, Deborah. That didn't smooth things over. Joan once said William had a marvelous head for business except when it involved me. She'd correct him and challenge his decisions during meetings. He didn't like that. They divorced in 1951. Her third marriage was to Collier Young, the ex-husband of actress Ida Lupino. The marriage started fast and fell apart faster. Joan filed for divorce by telegram while she was traveling in Hong Kong. When asked why, she said, "Better than waiting until I got home and forgot." They stayed friends afterward, which surprised everyone. Her final marriage was to a sports writer named Alfred Wright Jr. By then, Joan was nearing 50. She said he was young and flexible, which amused her. But after 5 years, she ended it like the others, with no regret and no looking back. Joan didn't apologize for how her marriages ended. She believed in love, just not in losing herself. She once said, "The only constant in my life has been me. Everyone else comes and goes." That attitude made her hard to pin down and impossible to control. War work that raised eyebrows. While other Hollywood stars posed for war bond posters, Joan Fontaine decided to do something else, something real. When World War II broke out, she didn't just slap on a uniform for a photo op. She trained as a nurse's aide, drove military vehicles, and visited wounded soldiers in actual hospitals. Not sound stages. The public didn't quite know what to make of it. Joan joined the Hollywood canteen, sure, but she also worked with the American Women's Voluntary Services. She took part in civil defense drills, learned how to administer first aid, and even got certified in air raid protocol. One studio head begged her to stop, worried she'd get injured or ruin her star image. She ignored him. Then came Yank magazine, a publication aimed at boosting morale among U.S. troops. Joan agreed to a photo shoot, but not just any shoot. The pictures showed her in silky robes with her hair undone and her legs exposed. For the time, it was practically scandalous. The troops loved it. Middle America? Not so much. Some conservative outlets slammed her, saying it was unbecoming for an Oscar winner to pose like that. Joan didn't flinch. "If it helps a soldier get through the day," she said, "I'll wear silk." She believed glamour had its place, even in war, especially then. Joan also toured hospitals and gave speeches at army bases. She didn't just wave and leave. She sat with soldiers, held their hands, and listened to their stories. One nurse later said, "She wasn't just acting caring. She really was." Even with all this, she never stopped working. Between 1942 and 1945, she filmed multiple movies while volunteering on the side. The press didn't always cover it. Joan didn't care. "I'm not in this for headlines," she said. "I'm in it because it matters." The tell-all memoir bombshell. By the late 1970s, Joan Fontaine had stopped caring what Hollywood thought of her, so when she published her memoir, No Bed of Roses, she didn't hold back. The book wasn't soft or sentimental. It was sharp, detailed, and at times brutal. She went straight for the jugular. The feud with Olivia? It was in there, fully exposed. Joan claimed their mother always favored Olivia and described their childhood as tense and competitive. She recounted the infamous Oscar night, saying Olivia was cold and never truly happy for her success. Joan even revealed she and Olivia hadn't spoken in decades, not even after family deaths. The book didn't stop with family. Joan wrote about ex-husbands, studio heads, co-stars, and lovers, some named, some kept anonymous but clearly recognizable. One chapter hinted at an affair with a well-known director. Another took aim at an actress she claimed got roles for reasons that had nothing to do with talent. Hollywood wasn't pleased. The press called it too personal. Some accused her of exaggerating. Joan just smiled. "If it's uncomfortable," she said, "maybe it's because it's true." She also opened up about the darker parts of her life: fame fatigue, broken marriages, and loneliness. She admitted she often felt like a stranger in her own house. She didn't sugarcoat anything. "I had fame, not peace," she wrote. Critics were split. Some praised the honesty. Others said it was attention-seeking. But the book sold well and got people talking. For Joan, that was enough. What really made jaws drop was her tone. She wasn't asking for pity. She wasn't bitter. She was amused, sharp-tongued, and utterly unapologetic. When a journalist asked if she regretted writing anything, she said, "Only the parts I left out." Stage comebacks and power plays. When the film roles started drying up in the 60s, Joan Fontaine didn't fade quietly into retirement. She went back to the stage, but not as a grateful has-been. She returned on her own terms. Joan toured across the US and Europe, starring in live productions of The Lion in Winter, Private Lives, and Tea and Sympathy. She wasn't just acting, she was controlling casting, wardrobe, and in some cases, rewriting lines. Directors who didn't listen to her notes didn't last long. She wasn't interested in being a team player. She wanted results. One famous incident happened during a production of a Tennessee Williams play. Joan didn't like the script's pacing, so she changed several of her lines during live performances. When the playwright's rep complained, she shrugged and said, "Then tell him to write it better." She also demanded top billing. Always. Even if her role wasn't the lead, her name had to appear first. In one production, she threatened to walk out when a co-star's name appeared slightly larger on the poster. The theater caved. Costume designers had a hard time too. Joan was particular about fabrics, fits, and colors. If she didn't like the wardrobe, she'd bring in her own. Once, she refused to go on stage unless the lighting was adjusted to her shade of ivory. It delayed the show by 45 minutes. But she wasn't doing this just to be difficult. Joan believed theater was sacred. It was where real acting happened, where there were no second takes. She once said, "Film flatters, stage reveals." Audiences came for the drama, both on and off stage. She still had star power, and ticket sales proved it. Critics called her demanding but magnetic. Theater owners called her a force of nature. Late life eccentricity or freedom? As the years rolled on, Joan Fontaine slipped out of the spotlight, but she never slipped into normal. In her final decades, she lived in Carmel-by-the-Sea, California, far from the cameras, surrounded by dogs, books, and old film reels. Friends and neighbors called her eccentric. Joan called it peace. She spent her days gardening, painting, and writing letters to fans. But don't picture a cozy old lady in a rocking chair. Joan was still sharp, still snarky, and still very much herself. She'd host dinner parties and assign guests roles from her old films. If someone showed up late or forgot their character, she'd send them home. No second chances. Joan also had a thing for rules. Her rules. She didn't allow small talk in her home. Visitors had to be invited, not just drop in. She reportedly once turned away a journalist because they wore jeans. "This isn't a barn," she said, shutting the door. Her dogs were her real companions. She talked to them more than people and gave them names like Scamp, Dancer, and Lily Pons. She said they were better conversationalists than most actors she worked with. She left instructions in her will for how each dog should be cared for after her passing. She also kept scrapbooks, detailed journals, and boxes of personal letters, many of which offered blunt takes on old co-stars, politics, and aging. One letter to a friend read, "I don't miss fame. I miss being underestimated." Even at 90, she gave interviews with a sharp tongue. She called modern Hollywood a circus and said too many actors can't even speak clearly. When asked if she'd ever reconcile with Olivia, she replied, "If I wanted peace, I'd take a nap." The final word was hers. She died in her sleep on December 15, 2013, at age 96. She left this world the same way she lived in it, on her own terms, quietly defiant, and a little bit mysterious. She passed away in her Carmel home, with her dogs nearby and her affairs already in perfect order. No press statements, no deathbed regrets, just a quiet end to a loud legacy. Olivia de Havilland, still alive at the time, issued a short, polite statement. There was no sign of a reunion, no mention of reconciliation. The decades-long silence between them never broke. When Joan's will was released, there was no doubt the rift was permanent. Olivia was completely excluded. Instead, Joan left her belongings to close friends, longtime staff, and animal charities. Her handwritten notes were clear and direct, no drama, just decisions. Among her personal items were treasures that told the real story: early rejection letters from studios, private telegrams from Alfred Hitchcock, fan mail she never threw away, and a copy of her Oscar speech with edits scribbled in red ink. Also found was a yellowed note taped inside her desk drawer. It read, "Don't trust praise. Don't fear criticism. Trust your gut." That single line summed up her entire career. After her passing, Hollywood tiptoed around her legacy. Some praised her Oscar-winning roles. Others brought up the feud. But fans remembered the whole package: talented, stubborn, fierce, and unforgettable. Joan never softened with age. She never tried to rewrite her story to fit public taste. She said what she meant, did what she wanted, and didn't care who liked it. Even in her last interviews, when asked how she'd like to be remembered, she answered, "I wouldn't. I lived it, that's enough." No grand finale, no curtain call, just Joan, unfiltered, unbothered, and always one step outside the spotlight.